ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Namaste, my dear friends. This is second video on the topic of Aparokshanubhuti, a wonderful book of Adi Shankaracharya on Advaita Vedanta. This is a very, very good guiding book for sadhakas pursuing the sadhana of self-inquiry, for self-realization and liberation. So I start the second video with stanza number 36. असंगः प्रसय प्रोक्तो बृहदारण्ये केऽपि च अनन्तमलशिलष्ट कथं शादेहकः पुमान्. So also it is said in the Brihadaranyaka that the Purusha is completely unattached. How can this body, wherein inhere innumerable impurities, be the Purusha? The Purusha is completely unattached. This reference is to the following passages. The Purusha is not accompanied in the waking state by what he sees in dream, for is completely unattached to everything. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza 3. Now stanza number 37. तत्रैव च समाख्यात स्वयं ज्योतिर्हि पुरुषः जड़ प्रकाशोय अयम कथम शादेहक पुमान. There again it is clearly stated that the Purusha is self-illumined, so how can the body, which is inert, insentient and illumined by an external agent, be the Purusha? There again in the same Brihadaranyaka we have here in dream the Purusha is self-illumined. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, 3.7. Stanza number 38. प्रोक्तो अपि कर्मकाण्डेन हवात्मा देहा दिवि लक्षणः नित्यश्च तत्फलं भुङ्क्ते देहापदा अंतरम. Moreover, the karma kanda also declares that the Atma is different from the body and permanent, as it endures even after the fall of the body and reaps the fruits of actions done in this life. Moreover, the Karma Kanda declares the Karma Kanda is that portion of the Veda which inculcates the performance of religious acts, sacrifices, and ceremonies, laying down in detail rules and regulations for the guidance of its votaries. The followers of the Karma Kanda do not believe in an Ishvara or God. Nevertheless, they believe in a permanent individual soul which is quite different from the body and which survives the destruction of the latter as a sport of apurva, the abiding result of karma. So not only the Jnana Kanda, the Upanishads, but the Karma Kanda also asserts that Atma is different from the body. Stanza number 39. Lingam chane kansanyuktam chalam drishyam vikari cha avyapak masudruvapam tat katham sayat pumaniyam. Even the subtle body consists of many parts and is unstable. It is also an object of perception, is changeable, limited, and non-existent by nature. So how can this be the Purusha? The subtle body, etc., it consists of 17 parts, viz. The intellect, mind, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, and 5 vital force or 5 subtle elements. Stanza 40. Evam देहद्वा दन्ने आत्मा पुरुषः ईश्वरः सर्वात्मा सर्वरूपश्च सर्वातीतो हम वह. The immutable Atma, the substratum of the ego, is thus different from these two bodies and is the Purusha. The Ishvara, the Lord of all, the Self of all, it is present in every form and yet transcends them all. Stanza number 41. Itya atam de bhagen परपंच संयौ सत्यता यथोक्ता तर्कशास्त्रेण ततः किम पुरुषार्थता. Thus the enunciation of the difference between the Atma and the body has indirectly asserted, indeed after the manner of the Tarka shAstra, the reality of the phenomenal world, but what ends of human life are served thereby. Tarka shAstra, the science of logic, jnAna, or treatises like Sankhya and Yoga, and those of the Lokayatikas, which mostly follow the method of inference in arriving at their respective conclusions. Here it specially refers to Sankhya, which with the mere help of Tarka logic tries to establish the final duality of Prakriti and Purusha, and in which Prakriti, or the material principle that constitutes the phenomenal world, is eternal and coexistent with Purusha, the conscious principle. What ends of human life are served? There are generally 4 ends of human life, viz. Dharma or performance of duty, Artha or attainment of worldly prosperity, Kama or satisfaction of desires, and Moksha or final liberation from the bondage of ignorance, of which the first 3 are but secondary, as they are only helps to the last, which is the Sammam Bonam. But this last one, the liberation from the bondage of ignorance, will never be attained unless a person realizes non-duality and becomes one with it, and thus removes even the last vestige of duality from the mind. But the establishment of duality is only an obstacle to such a realization and drives persons away from the path of liberation. It therefore serves no real purpose in human life. But the object of showing the difference between Atma and the body is not to prove the reality of the body and thus establish the duality of Atma and the body, but only to meet the opponents who hold the view that this body is Atma It will be shown in the following stanzas that there is no such thing as body, it is Atma that alone exists. Stanza 42. Itya Itya atam dehe bheden deha dehatam tatvam nivaritam idani de bhedasya havasatvam saput muchyate. Thus the view that the body is the Atma has been denounced by the enunciation of the difference between the Atma and the body. Now is clearly stated the unreality of the difference between the two. The unreality of the difference, etc., that the body has no existence independent of the Atma, just as the waves do not exist independently of water. In fact, the Atma alone exists, and it is through ignorance that one sees it as appearing in the forms of the body and the like. Stanza number 43. Chaitanya Sayikrupattva Devadvo Yukto ne Grihicite Jivatvam Che Mirsha Geyam Rajo Srapgraho Yatha. No division in consciousness is admissible at any time, as it is always one and the same. Even the individuality of the jiva must be known as false, like the delusion of a snake in a rope. It is always one and the same. The contents of consciousness may vary, but consciousness as such remains always uniform, just as the light of the sun remains the same while illuminating various objects. Rajav Gyanat Akshane Naivoi Yadvadruhi Sarpini Bhati Tadvichitti Saksa Divakshakaren Kevala. As through the ignorance of the real nature of the rope, the very rope appears in an instant as a snake, so also does pure consciousness appear in the form of the phenomenal universe without undergoing any change. Without undergoing any change, when a rope appears as a snake, nobody can say that any change has been wrought upon the rope. Similarly, pure consciousness appears as the so-called material universe without undergoing any change whatsoever. Stanza number 45. Upadanam parpanch se ब्रह्मणोऽन्येन विद्यते तस्मात् सर्व परपंचो अयम ब्रह्मैवास्ति न चेतरतः. There exists no other material cause of this phenomenal universe except Brahma. Hence this whole universe is but Brahma and nothing else. This whole universe is but Brahma. Because the effect is never different from the cause, a pot is never different from the earth of which it is made. The names and forms that differentiate the effect from the cause are but conventional and are found non-existent when their nature is inquired into. Stanza 46. व्याप्य व्यापकता मिथ्या सर्व मात्मेति शासनात् इति ज्ञाते प्रेतत्वे भेदस्यावसरः कुतः. From such declaration of Shruti as all this is Atma, it follows that the idea of the pervaded and the pervading is illusory. This supreme truth being realized, where is the room for any distinction between the cause and the effect? From such declaration, it refers to the passage, These Brahmins and Kshatriyas, these lokas, regions, gods, Vedas and beings, in short, everything is this Atman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza 57. Stanza 47. Shruta nivaritam nunam nana tavam saumukhe nahi katham bhaso bhavedanye sithate chadavya karane. Certainly the Shruti has directly denied manifoldness in Brahma, the non-dual cause being an established fact. How could the phenomenal universe be different from it? The Shruti has directly, etc. The Shruti passage runs as follows. After hearing from a competent teacher, one should realize with the help of a pure mind that there is no manifoldness in this Brahma. The non-dual cause being an established fact, etc. The positing of the non-dual Brahma as the final reality by the Shruti cuts at the root of all causality. For a cause always presupposes an effect which it produces and which is evidently different from it in some respect or other. But when there is only one, how is it possible for a second thing, an effect, to come into existence? The truth is that the non-dual Brahma or Atma never causes anything. It is through ignorance that one sees this world and thinks of Brahma as its cause. Stanza number 48. Doso api vihita shrutya nirto nirtum se gacchati I pashyati nana tavam maya vanchito naraha. Moreover, the Shruti has condemned the belief in verity in the words. The person who, being deceived by Maya, sees verity in this Brahma, goes from death to death. Goes from death to death means is born and dies again and again. The reference is to such Shruti text as he who sees verity in this, that is Brahma, passes from death to death. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza 4.19. In other words, unless a person realizes the non-dual Atma, which is evidently without birth and death, there is no escape for him from the cycle of rebirth. Stanza number 49. Brahmane sarvabhutani jayante paramatmanah tasmadetani brahmaiva bhavanti tavdharyet. Inasmuch as all beings are born of Brahma, the Supreme Atma, they must be understood to be verily Brahma. All beings are born of Brahma. The reference here is to such Shruti passages as that is Brahma, where from all these beings are born, etc. Taittiriya Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza number 50. Dharmayu Sravanamani Rupani Vividhani Cha Karmane Api Samagrani Vibhartiti Shruti Shrutirjagau. The Shruti has clearly declared that Brahma alone is the substratum of all varieties of names, forms, and actions. Brahma alone is the substratum, just as a rope is the substratum of the illusion of a snake and the like. So Brahma is the substratum of all names, forms, and actions, though these are but illusory. For even an illusion requires a substratum for its appearance. Stanza 51. Suvarna jayamanasya suvarntvam cha sasvatam brahmano jayamanasya brahmtvam cha tatha bhavet. Just as a thing made of gold ever has the nature of gold, so also a being born of Brahma has always the nature of Brahma. Stanza 52. Svalp Niyantram Kritva Jivatam Paramatmano Yah Santishthi Mudhatma Bhayam Tasyabhibhasitam. Fear is attributed to the ignorant one who rests after making even the slightest distinction between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Fear. Fear has its root in duality and imperfection and can be overcome by him alone who realizes non-duality and thus attains to perfection. For such a person, there is none to be afraid of and nothing to be gained or lost. Who rests, etc. The Shruti text runs as follows. When he, the ignorant one, takes the slightest difference in it, Brahmana, there is fear for him. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad, chapter 2, stanza 7. Stanza number 53. Yatra jnAna bhavavedah tamitra sutrah pashyati atam taven yada sarvam netra sutratah chanvapi. When duality appears through ignorance, one sees another, but when everything becomes identified with the Atma, one does not perceive another even in the least. When duality, etc. This stanza gives the substance of the following passage from the Shruti. For when there is duality, as it were, one sees another, smells another, etc. But when everything has become one's own self, how can one see another, smell another, etc.? Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, 5.15. Stanza 54. Yasmin sarvani bhutani Hayattam taven vijanatah ne vai tassai bhaven moho ne cha shoko divyatah. In that state, when one realizes all is identified with the Atma, there arises neither delusion nor sorrow, in consequence of the absence of duality. In that state, etc., it refers to the following Shruti text. When a person realizes all beings to be his very self, where is there any delusion or sorrow for such a sphere of unity? Isha-Upanishad, chapter 7, stanza 55. Ayamatma hi brahmayibai sarvatam katayah sitata iti nirdvaritum shrutva brihadarane sansathaya. The Shruti in the form of the Brihadaranyaka has declared that this Atma, which is the self of all, is verily Brahma. The Shruti, etc. The text is this Atma is Brahma, etc. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 2, stanza 5.19. Stanza 56. Anubhuto payam अनुभूतोपयम लोको व्यवहार अक्ष्मो अपि सनः ऐस असद्भूतो ऐस असद्भूतो भूपो यथा स्वप्नः उत्तर अक्षण बाधते. This world, though an object of our daily experience and serving all practical purposes, is like the dream world of the nature of non-existence inasmuch as it is contradicted the next moment. This world, etc., we cannot call a thing sat, ever existent, merely because it is experienced and has some pragmatic value. In dream we experience things which are valid so long as the dream lasts, but as soon as we awake they disappear as they never existed. So also the experience of our waking state, which are so full of meaning to us, are negated as soon as we enter into dream or deep sleep. This world of waking experience therefore is also in the same category of existence as the dream world. Stanza 57. स्वप्नो जागरणे लीकः स्वप्नेऽपि जागरो न हि दवमेव लये नास्ति लयो अपि ह्यूम्योर्नचः. The dream experience is unreal in waking, whereas the waking experience is absent in dream. Both, however, are non-existent in deep sleep, which again is not experienced in either the dream, etc. Here the author illustrates the preceding sloka by showing the unreality of the three states, avasthatraya, on account of their mutual contradiction. Stanza number 58. Trimevam bhavenim मिथ्या गुणत्रय विनिर्मितम अस्य दृष्टा गुणातीतो नित्यो है केचिदात्मकः. Thus all the three states are unreal inasmuch as they are the creation of the three gunas, but their witness, the reality behind them, is beyond all gunas, eternal one, and is consciousness itself. The three states are unreal, etc. This world of our daily experience, comprising these three states, is produced by the permutation and combination of the three gunas, components of Prakriti, or the primeval substance, which sattva, rajas and tamas. But whatever is a compound must disintegrate and be destroyed. This world being a compound is thus foredoomed to destruction, and so it is unreal, as reality implies indestructibility. Here what has been put forward as a mere proposition in Sloka 56 is conclusively proved, viz. that this world, though experienced, is unreal. Bear witness when everything in this world is in a state of flux and is changing every moment. What is it that sees these changes? The Vedanta declares that it is Atma, the conscious principle that witnesses all the changes itself, ever remaining unchanged and unaffected by the gunas that work these changes. Stanza 59. यद्वैमर्दी घट भ्रांति सुक्तो वा रजता स्थितितम तद्वै ब्रह्मणि जीवत्वम वीक्षमाणेन पश्यति. Just as after the illusion has gone, one is no more deluded to see a jar in earth or silver in the nacre, so does one no more see Jiva in Brahma when the latter is realized as one's own self. So does one no more see, etc. So long as a person is in ignorance, he thinks himself as a Jiva, which has an individuality of its own apart from Brahma. But when with the dawn of real knowledge he realizes himself as one with Brahma, this Jivahood appears to him as nothing but an illusion, like the illusion of silver in the nacre. Stanza number 60. यथा मृदि घटो नामः कर्ण के कुंडला मिधा सुक्तो ही रजत ख्याति जीव शब्द स्थापरे. Just as earth is described as a jar, gold as an earring, and a nacre as silver, so is Brahma described as Jiva. Stanza 61. Yathaiv vyomini niltvam yatha niram mrusthale purustvam yatha sthano tadvid disvasam chidatamani. Just as blueness in the sky, water in the mirage, and a human figure in a post are but illusory, so is the universe in Atma. So is the universe in Atma, not only Jiva, but the whole universe is in illusion in Atma. This is illustrated in various ways in Shloka 61 to 64. Stanza number 62. Yathaiv sunne vitalo gandharvanam puram yatha yatha kase divchandratvam tadvat satte jagati sthiti. Just as the appearance of a ghost in an empty place, of a castle in the air, and of a second moon in the sky is illusory, so is the appearance of the universe in Brahma. Stanza 63. Yatha trang kallau lerjalmev sapurtelam patre rupen tamram hi brahmando gaisat atmata. Just as it is water that appears as ripples and waves, or again it is copper that appears in the form of a vessel, so it is Atma that appears as the whole universe. Stanza 64. Ghatnamna yatha prithvi patnamna hi tantavah Jaganamana Chidabhati Jayam Tad Bhavatah. Just as it is earth that appears under the name of a jar, or it is threads that appear under the name of a cloth, so it is Atma that appears under the name of the universe. This Atma is to be known by negating the names. This Atma is to be known etc. The knowledge of Atma means only the removal of names and forms that are superimposed upon it through ignorance. Stanza 65. सर्वोऽपि व्यवहारस्तु ब्रह्मणा क्रियते जनैः अज्ञानान्नः विजानन्ति निर्देभिः घटादिकम्. People perform all their actions in and through Brahma, but on account of ignorance, they are not aware of that. Just as through ignorance, persons do not know that jars and other earthwares are nothing but earth, just as through ignorance, etc. In all our dealings with various earthwares, we are actually dealing with earth, as by no means can earth be separated from earthwares. So, in all our intercourse with the world, we are in fact dealing with Brahma, which is non-separable from the world. कार्ये कारणता नित्यमास्ते घट निर्दयो यथा तथैव श्रुति युक्तिभ्याम प्रपंच ब्रह्मणोरिह. Just as there ever exists the relation of cause and effect between earth and a jar, so does the same relation exist between Brahma and the phenomenal world. This has been established here on the strength of scriptural text and reasoning. So does the same relation, etc. The same relation of cause and effect exist between Brahma and the world. But as the effect can never be shown to be separate from the cause, this relation only means their non-difference. The Shruti also declares all this is identical with that is Sat or Brahma. Chandogya Upanishad chapter 6.8.7. All this is verily Brahma. Chandogya Upanishad chapter 3.14.1. Stanza number 67. Grahimane ghate yadvan mritika yati vaibalat vikshmane prapanchapi brahmaiva bhati bhasuram. Just as the consciousness of earth forces itself upon our mind while thinking of a jar, so also does the idea of ever-shining Brahma flash on us while contemplating on the phenomenal world. So also does flash on us, etc. In some rare moment, while we think very deeply about the evanescent nature of this world, we become almost intuitively aware of Brahma, the permanent entity behind these changing phenomena. For change necessarily implies something that is unchanging. Stanza 68. सदैव आत्मा विशुद्धो अस्ति हर्षशुद्धो भाति वैसदः यथैव दिविद्वा रज्जु ज्ञानी ज्ञानिनो निशम. Atma, though ever pure to a wise man, always appears to be impure to an ignorant one, just as a rope always appears in two different ways to a knowing person and an ignorant one. Pure, without any modification, such as the body, in two different ways as rope and a snake. Stanza 69. यथैव मिरन्मय कुंभस्थो होपी चिन्मयी आत्मा अनात्मा विभागो अयम मुदैव क्रियते बुद्धि. Just as a jar is all earth, so also is the body all consciousness. The division therefore into the self and non-self is made by ignorant to no purpose. The division to no purpose. The dualist erroneously think that the body and Atma are two separate entities independent of each other. Atman are two separate entities independent of each other. This, however, does them no good as it deprives them of the realization of the non-dual Atma, which is Samam Bhavanam. Stanza number 70. Sarat taveni yatha rajju rajat taveni shuktika विनिर्णीता विमूढ़ेन देहत्वेन यथात्मा. Just as a rope is imagined to be a snake and a nacre to be a piece of silver, so is the Atma determined to be the body by an ignorant person. By an ignorant person, by a rank materialist who declares the body or matter to be the ultimate reality and denies the existence of Atma apart from the body. How this erroneous knowledge arises out of a confusion between the real and the apparent is illustrated in stanzas 70 to 74. Stanza 71. घटतवेन यथा पृथ्वी पटतवेनैव तन्तवः विनिर्णीता विमूढ़ेन देहत्वेन यथात्मा. Just as earth is thought of as a jar made of wheat and threads as a cloth, so is Atma, etc. Stanza 72. Kankam kundal taven trangav taven vai jalam vinirnita vimudhen dehtven yathatma. Just as gold is thought of as an earring and water as waves, so is Atma, etc. Stanza 73. पुरस्तवेन वै स्थाणुर्जलत्वेन मरीचिका विनिर्णीता विमूढ़ेन देहत्वेन यथात्मा. Just as the stump of a tree is mistaken for a human figure and a mirage for a water, so is the Atma, etc. गृहत्वेनैव काष्ठानि खङ्गत्वेनैव लोहता विनिर्णीता विमूढ़ेन देहत्वेन यथात्मा. Just as a mass of woodwork is thought of as a house and iron as a sword, so is the Atma. Stanzas 70 to 73 are illustrative of a set of false knowledge due to an error of judgment, whereas the other three stanzas deal only with the imperfect knowledge in which forms are made much of an disregard of substance, which is the reality behind them. Stanza number 75. Yatha vraks viparyaso jal जलात भवति कस्यचित् तद्दात्मनि देहत्वं पश्यते ज्ञान योगतः. Just as one sees the illusion of a tree on account of water, so does a person on account of ignorance see Atma as the body. Illusion, etc. The tree is not in the water, it is only a reflection due to water that the person sees. How ignorance makes one think of the ever pure Atma as appearing in material forms is described in stanza 75 to 86 through various illustrations culled from everyday experience. Stanza 76. पोतेन गच्छतः पुंसः सर्वं भाति चंचलम् तद्वदात्मनि देहत्वं पश्येत ज्ञान योगतः. Just as to a person going in a boat, everything appears to be in motion, so does one, etc. पीतत्वं हि यथा शुभ्रे दोषा भवति कस्यचित् तद्वदात्मनि देहत्वं पश्यत ज्ञान योगतः. Just as to a person suffering from a defect, jaundice, white things appear as yellow, so does one, etc. चक्षुर्भ्यां भ्रमशीलाभ्यां सर्वं भाति भ्रमात्मकम् तद आत्मनि देहत्वं पश्य ज्ञान योग्यतः. Just as to a person with defective eyes, everything appears to be defective, so does one, etc. Stanza 79. Alatam bharmen neva vartulam bhati suryavata tadvat atmani dehetvam pashyate jnana yogyatah. Just as a firebrand through mere rotation appears circular like the sun, so does one, etc. Stanza 80. महत्वे सर्ववस्तूनामन्तत्वं हृति दूरतः तद्वदात्मनि देहत्वं पश्यत्य ज्ञान योगतः. Just as all things that are really large appear to be very small owing to a great distance, so does one, etc. So my dear friends, I stop the video here. Thank you for listening and watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks my dear friends. Namaskar. Namaskar.